Hello, 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 good evening, everyone. Hello, hello, Ian. Oh, hello, Ryoji. Very nice to see you guys here. So welcome to this part two of the Make a Game with Diversion series. What we had last time, the video is up on our YouTube channel, so you can go watch it. We started a new project from scratch and created a repository, and made some changes, made some commits, and we were working on a snake game or a snake-like game, let's call it. And well, if you were here last time, or if you watched the previous video, then we finished off with a bit of an error. We had a problem with the camera setup, with the gameplay camera setup. So what I want first of all is to settle that debt. I can show you what was missing in the last video. And today we're going to essentially finish the game. So there was some off camera work. We're gonna just finish the game, and we will do the reviews flow for Diversion. We'll be able to review our changes, send a review request, similar to a merge request in GitLab, or pull request in GitHub, and we will use Jenkins to actually release a build or create a build for our game and run some tests with BuildGraph. So let's get right into it. You can see my screen. Once again, as before, this is the same project using the assets from Quaternius, who has a website and is out on itch. So very nice low poly assets, which I just think look great. So where we finished off last time with the camera, right? I have our little mushroom person moving around. So this is what we want the camera to do, right? We want to be able to actually turn when our character turns. And what was missing, so this now, of course, works. What was missing last time is if I go into the snake pawn blueprint under gameplay camera, I had this misconfigured. So this was set to disabled, which is just the default value. So now this is the situation we were at the end of the last video. So the camera didn't actually rotate with me despite all the code being in place. So it had to be activated. So if the camera isn't behaving the way you want it to, you need to activate it. And for us, I'm going to use the auto activate for player. And this gets us where we want to be. So this is the camera behavior we want. And well, I gotta say that I think this is pretty much a ready game. It might not be the greatest game of all times, but it's here. I'm collecting apples and I'm spawning more body parts. This is essentially Snake. Now, what's missing right now is if I run into myself, it sort of glitches out, but right, I should have lost the game, right? Nothing really happens, right? I keep getting apples spawned in. So what I want us to do is to implement this one last bit of code, one last piece of the puzzle that will make us lose the game if we run into ourselves. So let's do just that. Well, I already did that off camera, spoiler alert, and we have it here in a different branch. So right now we are on the main branch. Excuse me, I'll just get the annoying Zoom notification out of the way. So we were now on the main branch, and I want a branch for dying when you run into yourself. So you can see the naming convention for the something slash. What that does in Diversion is just it groups branches together. So that might be convenient for your workflow. You can have one for bug fixes, one for releases, depending on what exactly you do. And creating a new branch is super easy. It's just the new branch button. And we use lightweight branching, so there's no it's just a pointer, so there's no very large copying of assets over. It's very fast. And what I'm going to do is, first of all, for whatever reason, oh, well, it marks itself as having been modified because I saved the blueprint. So let's first of all undo this, right? Undo any changes. And I will now switch over to the die when hitting self branch. So right click, switch to branch, super easy. Switching over, right? I'm getting this extra commit synced in. And there you go. We are in. We are good to go. The plugin tells me that some assets may have changed on disk. That is correct. The game mode actually changed on disk. So let's hit this reload button in the prompt, and that will let me get the new game mode. So the bit of code that I added that was different in order for us to be able to die when we run into ourselves is this right here. So right now this is the change I made. The snake pawn CPP class fires a delegate when you run into yourself, and I'm going through the whole thing. I'm stopping. I'm showing a widget, running an animation. It looks more or less like this, right? Let's find an apple, right? So as I get more of them, I get a bit longer, and here I should be able to run into myself. Oops, and I get a Dark Souls like screen of you died. Great. So this is my new feature. It's in a branch. Now I want to well merge it back. I want to get ready to release it, to have it shared with the rest of the team. So with diversion, that's very easy. Can always use the branch graph to see who's working on what, as we saw before. It might um, help keep things organized. Right now, it's not very exciting because it's just me, but since we're a big team, 10, 50 people, 50 people, 100 people, it's could get very complex. But right now, I just want to merge this commit back into the main branch. So I can do it from here, by the way. You can right click, merge, right? Feature die when hitting self into main. That's what I want. So let's hit merge. And what I want, first I could just, go ahead and do it. I want to create a review request because maybe we're not happy with these changes, right? I want an extra set of eyes to verify my changes. So this is our review request interface, right? What did I do? Well, added lose condition to game, and I can say, right, game mode um, listens to delegate from player. And well, right now there's no one else here to review the to review because I have no collaborators with me, but they would all be here, and I can say create review. And if I look in the files changed, I see here, well, right now this is a blueprint, so I can't really see the contents of the blueprint, but if this was a code file, I would see the code. If this was an image file or a model, I could see them side by side in a comparison. And I have here exactly where my face is hiding. This is actually a bit of feedback from last time. So let me remove my face. Ah, there you go. I can see a place where I can leave comments on a couple of things. So I can leave a comment on the file. All right, on a specific file, or I can leave a comment on the entire review. So I can say here, okay, getting the pawn and casting not the cleanest, for example, because that's what we saw earlier, right? As someone who receives this review request, I would merge to the specific branch, and then I could see the files if we're talking about a U asset that I cannot actually preview here. I can even download a specific version of the file so I can view it and view the changes. And here I have the entire entire conversation, and I would be, whenever I am ready, I can merge it. I have the entire conversation documented, and when someone says under review changes for the entire review, it can say approve. Then we will be able to merge. Now, before we do that, I want to show you something else. Let me get my face back on the screen. Hello. So, what I want to do when this review is merged, when this review is created, I want to be able to run an automated script that will build it and run some automated tests on it. So for that, we're going to use our webhooks, our webhook solution. So before we hit merge, let's set up our pipeline, and then we'll be able to merge the review and see it in action. So to use webhooks with Diversion, you want to go to your menu under organizations, webhooks. I have a list of all of my repositories, and when I'm on the correct repository, I want to add a webhook. And this is a new webhook for this repository, and its name, it's going to be, will build test. A great name. I want to run it when a review is merged. So whenever I merge a review, I want it to fire, and I need to tell it where to send a payload. Now, right now, the setup I have is I have a Jenkins instance running locally. I'm cheating just a bit. This would be your real Jenkins server or Team City or whatever it is you are using. I have my Jenkins right over here. I have this nice pipeline, and of course, I'm not sending it to localhost. This was not done with AI, as is the joke nowadays. I am using SME to forward traffic in. So I want to go into this is the URL for my webhook. So I'm not creating it just yet because there's a parameter missing. So what I want to do is to show you how I set up the Jenkins pipeline. So the Jenkins setup has a couple of parts. I have my pipeline itself, but before I get to it, I had to configure my API key, my authentication key. So if you go through the app, you can go into integrations. I will have a place to regenerate my API token. I won't do it right now because it will invalidate the one I have, but you can click on generate new API token to get a new one. And the token I got from here, I saved inside the credentials on Jenkins. So this is called a DV token, and this is my credentials. It's tied to my Diversion user. Now, if I go into the Snake CI pipeline, it does a couple of things. So first of all, it's triggered via webhook, via the generic webhook trigger plugin. And it's expecting a Snake CI token, which is just the arbitrary name I gave it. So I wanted to go into the payload URL, and the token should be Snake CI. So that was the last connecting piece. I'm going to say add webhook. So now our webhook is alive and well. We'll run it in just a second. What else does it do? There is a pipeline script. By the way, there is an option to use a diversion plugin for Jenkins. It's a community plugin. We actually have a demo of me using it on our website in a previous webinar. There was a dedicated CI webinar, so you can go check it out. It's a great plugin. Right now, I just set it up this way. So I need my user pool client ID. You can get that from our documentation. It's an environment variable that needs to exist in your script. And I have two other parameters. So one is the name of the repo, which is called Snake Webinar, which is just the name of the repo. And the other is the workspace. So to prepare for running my CI, my pipeline, I created another workspace that I called CI, and that's gonna just look on the it's gonna be pointed at the main branch, and anything that happens in the main branch, it will get. Now, the advantage of creating a dedicated workspace for your CI is that depending on your setup, depending on what exactly you do, if your CI machine is on, that means that the diversion client will be running on it. So thanks to the sync mechanism, you will have changes constantly pushed to it. So if it's something that you're running often, or if you're running nightly, because I don't know, you have a lot of changes going in and you want to run it once per day because it takes a long time to run because of whatever way you have it configured, there's not going to be a long latency where you're going to have to wait for it to sync. Like however much work you did during the day, it's going to get synced incrementally as people push their changes. So I think that's nice, and that's the setup that I went for here. So I have just this workspace here, and if I right click, I can get the workspace ID, which is exactly the workspace ID over here. And what the pipeline does, any pipeline, or the role of version control in really any pipeline is you need to authenticate headlessly, then you need to get your revision, your repository at a specific point in time. So this is exactly what this script is doing. It's very simple. It's pretty much copy pasted from the one in our documentation, our CI page in our documentation. I am getting the DV token that I configured earlier, and I'm calling the authenticate method using the token, which is what lets us authenticate headlessly. And what the script does is it looks for the workspace dvrepo.diversion folder. And if I open my Jenkins data folder, so the workspace folder over here is the program data jenkins.jenkins workspace folder. And this is where, when I cloned my repo, when I ran this pipeline earlier, this is where it wound up. It's the snake CI folder, right? Or sorry, the snake CI, excuse me. This is the workspace folder. It's the snake CI, right? It's the workspace for the specific pipeline, and I'm looking for it slash dv repo, which is our repo name, so Snake Webinar. And I'm looking for the .diversion folder, which is the folder that it's the hidden configuration folder for all diversion repositories. So if this exists, that means that the repo has already been cloned. In the first run, this will not be present. So if this does not exist, clone the repo with the workspace that we specified, and right else already exists. So run a DV update just to make sure that we are up to date, because I set this up to just get the latest from main and run on that. If you have a different setup, you might want to get a bit more sophisticated with a checkout command or with your clone command, depending on what exactly you do. And then I'm running DV status, essentially waiting for the sync to end. So depending on if I have other stuff to sync. And the next step is I am running a build graph script. And I want to show you the script that I wrote, and we'll look at this right now. So if you're not familiar with build graph, let me open the script. As you can see, it's under scripts build graph. That's where I put it. So in my workspace folder, I can even show it to you here in the actual clone that we're working on. Scripts build graph. There you go. So build graph. Thank you. So build graph is It's a tool by Epic. It's an Unreal tool for any kind of automation actions. It is an XML format, and you can use it to define agents that do different kinds of operations. And this might feel a bit like overkill with a bunch of, all of the nodes. Essentially, this is so you can hook it into Horde or UBA, which lets you run these different agents on different machines. So you could use this for a distributed build system if you want to get things done more quickly. That is what this is for. And as you can see, the options are the parameters exposed by the script. So here's the target platform. Right now, I want it to be Windows. The test filter is Snake, so we'll see the tests in just a second. And the project root is where the project lives, right? Which I use the project root in order to configure other properties that I later use in the scripts. For example, where the editor exe lives, which I use to run the tests. So you can define options that are exposed, like as parameters or arguments, and then use them to configure properties, which are your variables. And what this does, it does two things. It compiles the Snake Webinar editor target, so creates an editor build of the project, and then it runs the automation tests that match the filter in our test filter. So right now it's Snake. And you can see the compile Snake webinar editor produces editor binaries, and the other node to run the test requires editor binaries. So they require each other. So if I run the build test target, it's going to run this, which requires this. So it's going to run this. So you can sort of organize your file, your build graph file. You can, of course, have multiple build graph scripts. It's just an arbitrary name, right? You can have multiple different scripts to do multiple different things. The Lyra project has a pretty good example of one. This is an incredibly oversimplified one that just compiles and runs tests. Now, what are these tests that I want to run? So I'm gonna show you what is unfortunately a pretty contentious topic in software in general, but in games specifically, and that is automated testing. Now, for the life of me, I cannot tell you why so many people that at least I hear are like against using automated tests with a wide array of arguments that I cannot defend. So what I'm going to show you is one of the ways in which we can write automated tests for our Unreal projects. There are several different automation solutions for Unreal for different kinds of things. But the one I chose to show you is called the functional tests. And I chose these because I think they are the simplest to explain and to show. And for for people who are new to tests, I think these would be the easiest to start with and the easiest to see value with or to see value from. So without further ado, in order to write an automated test, we need to go into the plugins screen, and we want the functional testing editor, which I already have enabled this plugin. And what that lets me do is it lets me create actors that inherit from a functional test actor. And what I did is I created a new plugin for my project that I called Snake Specs. And the role of this plugin is to hold the automated tests apart from the project. So I can always completely opt out of shipping this with anything. It's not going to contaminate anything. And like this won't be included in shipping builds. And game code wouldn't accidentally include this. So it's relatively safe and clean to keep completely apart. And I'm using this if you decide to look more into this. We're going to do what's called a BDD style test, so for behavior driven development tests. And what I have here is I have two things. First of all, I have a level, which is just empty. It has just the empty level with a player start. And I have my functional testing blueprint, my functional test blueprint actor here, which I called should move forward spec. So what I want this test to verify is that the player pawn, the snake pawn, moves forward, right? We saw it earlier when I launched the game, the little mushroom snake thing starts moving forward. And that's what I want to verify. So what the test looks like is this actor, and it has a start test event. Also, there's a prepare test, and I think there's a cleanup event that you can use. And when the test is run, this start test event is called, and everything that is connected to it happens. What this test does is it captures the player pawn's location, waits for half a second, and then tests the location again and compares it to the previous location, right? It's very simple. I expect the pawn to be more forward than it was when we started. So I compare using assert nodes, which is they are methods that belong to the functional test actor. And I can see that I'm expecting the X position value to be greater than the original one, right? So wherever we started, we're moving forward. The X should be greater and the Y and Z should be the same. So this is what we have here. So the X value should be greater than the X value. The Y value should be equal to the Y value, and the Z value should be equal to the Z value. And after I run these assertions, I run finish test. And depending on the situation of these assert nodes, the test will succeed or fail. So let's see what that looks like. How do I actually run a test, right? We saw that I can run them with the fancy command line command. How do I use it day to day? I can go into tools, into the session front end, and under automation, I can see all of the automation tests that the engine has. There are quite a bit, which is great because it's a lot of functionality that needs to be tested. But if I look for a snake, I can see that under snake specs, I have the should move forward spec. And I can select it and run. And what's going to happen is it's going to run. And it's throwing a lot of errors for a configuration in the mover component, um, which okay, so I'm not gonna deal with this now because I don't remember where the configuration lives, but you can see that it ran the test, so it ran the level, and it if we ignore the mover malconfiguration or misconfiguration errors, we can see our assertions. So, right, the X location expected 604 to be greater than 233. So it worked, right? So we are ahead on the X-axis and our Y and Z are 0. So configuration errors notwithstanding, this should be a passing test. Now, this is not necessarily the best example of a test ever written, but it has a lot of good things going for it. For example, we don't know, it's pretty abstract, right? So I don't know which kind of pawn I'm testing. I don't know what blueprint it is. I don't know if it's a character. I don't know anything. I just know it's the player pawn. and I'm using the lowest APIs I can. So, just actor location. I don't know anything about the way it's implemented. So from this test code, I don't know that it uses mover. I don't know anything. I'm just following the location of the pawn. So this is a test that would be, generally speaking, pretty resilient. So even if I swap into a completely different, maybe mover isn't working for me, I want to go back to the character movement component and I'm gonna change everything else, gonna be a different blueprint, different base CPP class. This test, no matter what, will always be true, or the behavior that it describes is always something that I want for this project. So no matter what kind of changes I make, I can make them very safely, right? Because right now it's very small, but when this project gets much bigger and I'm gonna have a lot of team members doing a lot of changes, I want a way to make sure that everything behaves the way I want it to behave. So right now, people can go and uproot everything completely, swap everything out, our custom physics for our physics-based snake game, everything can completely get turned on its head, but this will still be true. So I will always be able to run the test and see, okay, we are moving as I expect us to. And if we're not, I'll be able to address it early. So this doesn't mean that there will never be any bugs or never be any issues, right? Everyone who's ever written a line of code or connected a blueprint node knows that every node is a potential bug. So this doesn't mean that I will not have any bugs in the future, but this does mean that for any issues with this functionality, I will know before people get it into their hands. And these people can be my internal QA team who does playtesting. So they will get less broken builds, and I will be able to make changes, to keep making changes with a higher level of confidence, even as the project grows. Um, so this is one kind of automation tests that we have in Unreal. And like I said, I think this is the simplest one to show. And if you want to really, go above and beyond and get a lot of extra credit, you can even write this test before you write the code that it tests. So I could have done this before creating the pawn class, right? Could have said, okay, I want to move forward when the game starts. I could have done this, the test would have failed, and then I would have created the code or created the blueprint to satisfy the test. That way I really know that it works. I'm not getting any false positives or any kind of false results. That would be test-driven development or spec-driven development, depending on exactly what you're doing and which LinkedIn influencer you are listening to. So that's the test that we have. We know that it's failing, but just for the sake of demonstration. And I think we should be good to go. So we have our test. We saw the snake test filter. We have the Jenkins pipeline good and ready to go. So you see in the stage where I run the build graph script, right? This is more or less the syntax for running these kinds of commands. You go to the run UAT batch script. It's the build graph command. I need to give it a path to my script, and I need to tell it which target I'm building. So this is the build test target, and I'm telling it where the project root is. So for this demo mock setup, right, I'm using just the installed engine. If you're using a source build, this would also look differently. And I am using the project root parameter, right, because this is where the project sits, the project that I'm showing you sits. But for our build machine, this is not the correct project root, right? So the project root is in workspace DV repo, which as we saw earlier, it's here, right? It's the workspace DV repo. So now what I'm gonna do, if I have everything set up correctly, And I think I do. What I'm gonna do is I'm gonna go back into the app, into the reviews. I have my review over here. And we've been over it. It looks great, right? We saw that we lose, and I want to approve. Looks great. And I'm going to hide my face so you can see, right? I said looks great. I'm approving the review under review changes. I can say submit. And now I am going to, here I am again, I am going to merge. And all right, fingers crossed, I remembered to do everything correctly. We can go in here and, oh, we got it. So you saw the pipeline run was triggered. And I can see what it does going to the console output here. So, right, it runs the dv authenticate command. It sees that the repo exists, so it's running, right? So it's running the dv update command and dv status to wait for the sync to end. It had to get the Snake game mode because that's the modified asset. So it got the latest changes, right? Because we just merged into main, and it's running our command, the build test target. So we can see this is what it looks like. So it's running. Oh, sorry, it is unable to build while live coding is active. Sorry. So this is right now failing because I have this open. So that is not a planned error. So let's, for the sake of it, just replay, go. Great. All right, yeah, so it's updating. It's not going to have any changes right now, right? It's up to date because we already synced a second ago. Now it's going to compile the project. Right, it's running the build command. And it's gonna think for a second, and eventually it's gonna fail. Let's leave it running here to the side. It's gonna fail when it reaches the testing part, just like we saw that the test fails. Um, and that would, we would see that the pipeline is failing, and we would know, okay, we something happened that we need to address, right? Who approved the merge? Or what commit are we on? When did this run? So we can know what actions to take to remedy the broken build. Um, and when the if and when the tests do pass, you can use the same kind of, see here, the failing tests. Um, the failing tests. By the way, we also have here a report output path, which is right over here. So if I run this, I have an index.html and index.json file. And in the JSON, we can see that there is a fail. So I can see that which test failed, right? I'm getting the message, the failure message, which is just what we saw. Or I'm getting all of the messages. And now I know which test failed, and now I can go in and fix it. And when it will be fixed, then I could use the same sort of pipeline to run a build cook run command, or push this to Steam, to the local network drive where people can access it, itch, anything like that. And that would be, I think, the last piece of the puzzle of how to get our game built, packaged, and in people tested and in people's hands. And that is all I have for you today. This was a bit shorter than the last one. Are there any questions? Did everything make sense? Is this are these parts of Unreal Engine that you knew about, like how to operate the build graph or the functional tests? Is it something that you've heard about in the past or that you've done? I'm also seeing Ian, haven't looked into this before. Well, then I'm a big advocate for this kind of work. I think that's the correct way to go about it. And Bleed X Rose 67 from YouTube. Sorry, I missed your message. And hello, Arturo from YouTube as well. When you say, does this include coding? The question from YouTube. I'm sorry, I'm only seeing this now, so I'm not sure exactly what you mean. If you're still here, if you could repeat your question. If you mean the webinar, then no, there was no coding in the webinar. If you meant the review interface, then yes, you could do proper code reviews with it and give per line comments and really have a conversation about the code. So sorry for missing your question. Um, Anything else? Ian, Ryoji? Um, okay. Thanks for going over this. I'll look into Jenkins a bit more. Yeah, for sure, no problem. That's what I'm here for. Jenkins is just one of the options, depending on where you are and what your setup is. A bunch of other options as well. Team City, um, Circle CI. So I have a lot of available tools for something like this. Um, all right. So I think that's going to be it for us today. If anyone's going to GDC that's coming up in a couple of weeks, we will have a booth there. It's booth number 960. So feel free to swing by, meet the team, say what you like about version control, what you don't like about version control, and maybe give us some of your feedback. If you have any for us, we'd be very happy to hear it. And I will be seeing you guys next time. Bye bye.